religious terms where people can relate, because when you're doing energy work, you pretty much have to make up your own terminology.
Right.
You know, because there isn't really anything out there to define what you really see. So you have to come up with explanations. So you hear, you know, you read one book and they have an explanation. You read another book, they have a different explanation. But through all of this, I practiced, there's all kinds of different ways to use psychic abilities. Okay? When somebody says they're a psychic, you know, what does that really mean? It can be a shaman. So what is a shaman? Shaman works with earth energies. Native Americans. I studied the medicine wheel with Native Americans. So what does that mean? It means that animals have souls. Everything has an energy field of consciousness that it's connected with, because everything is created through thought. We call it subtle energy. Okay? Subtle energy is in what the physicists would call standing waves of energy. And those standing waves, when consolidated enough, will create something. They'll create a thought, they'll create a soul, they'll create a stone or a crystal or the ocean, water, they'll create molecules, right? So in shamanism, what you're doing is you're connecting with the earth part of this third dimension. So like the Native Americans, they learned how to beat a drum to a certain rhythm, which would connect their lower chakras to the animal energy fields, and they could communicate with certain plants and animals, okay? And they were very effective with it. And a lot of Native Americans were telepathic. They could just talk to each other telepathically. They learned how to communicate in those vibrational frequencies. That's one aspect of being psychic, right? But then you got other people that can look into other people's lives. Like I could look into you and feel your emotions and say, well, I can feel fear in you. You're worried about money, or you're worried about this, or you're worried. That's a whole nother aspect of being a psychic. So, and some people have the ability to look into other people's futures.
Right.
That's another whole completely different field. Then there's what they call spiritual mediums, which I am too, which I can talk to souls that have died physically, but are in a different frequency range, that either have crossed from the third dimension through the fourth to the fifth, or I can learn from their stories. That's how I wrote my second book, Afterlife in Hawaii. Okay. My wife and I spent 5 or 6 years almost every night on the beach, different beaches, taking pictures of orbs. We went to different islands. Walls of orbs would come to us, and those orbs were souls. And I learned how to communicate with them. And I used dowsing and my angels to talk to, and I learned their history. And I wrote it down in a book. And I crossed them over back to their soul groups. So all the stuff that I wrote in my book called Afterlife in Hawaii are stories that were told to me by souls that had died. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. I have a question real quick. You were talking about when you're clearing out the trauma from the soul.
Right.
And so, you know, with past life regression and experiences, that's what a lot of people are carrying around, right? Is trauma from past lives. So would that keep them from bringing that trauma into their next life? Or at that point, would they not need to reincarnate because the trauma's been healed? Do you know how that works?
Well, Yeah, one of the things that we do when we're working with people is we try to clear the trauma from past lives.
Mm.
Because all that past life experience is connected into our lower consciousness. So when you clear that, it allows you to have freedom to, I've always looked at it, okay, I don't have any baggage down below, so I'm free to go as high as I want.
Mm.
So when I go up into the quantum field, I don't have any baggage holding me back. I don't have anybody telling me that you need to forgive your, in a past life you killed somebody. I had to do that. I'll give you the story. Okay. I was, in a past life, I lived on the Big Island. And I had lived on the Hilo side, and I had an affair with a woman. And back then they really didn't have marriage ceremonies. They just, when you had got somebody pregnant, you were supposed to take care of them. It was a commune thing. Well, I was very irresponsible. I didn't want to take authority. I didn't want to do anything. So they told me to go to the other side of the island, to the Kona side, and stay there for a year and contemplate what I'd done. So when I'm over there, I was pretty much isolated away from a lot of other Hawaiian people, but there was a group of Hawaiian that was approaching me, and I killed one of them with a sword, with a spear, and that created karma for me. Okay, now I didn't realize this, but it was like 10 years ago. My daughter went to school in Hilo. She went to college in Hilo, and I'm over. I just did not feel welcome on that island. I couldn't figure out why until I sat down with a friend of mine and we did a past life regression thing. And I had found myself in a hut surrounded by a bunch of elders, kahunas, and they said, you're guilty of killing this person. So I did what they call ho'oponopono, which is forgive me, I'm sorry. I apologized. I didn't realize. That karma lifted off. And from that point on, I was able to go back over to the Big Island and do energy work and cross over souls. So that just gives you an example of how powerful our past life karma can be, you see. Mm-hmm. And you and I, we'll work with people and we'll release their karma, and sometimes their physical bodies will heal because maybe there was an attachment. And they call it earth entities. And it took me a long time to figure this one out, but it was like people come to me and they've got this chronic back problem, and they find out that they have an earth entity, which means it's one of their ancestors is trying to get their attention and tell them that you need to ask forgiveness from the past. Once they do that, it's gone. It's over with. That energy field's gone. Now, this sounds really crazy stuff, but my wife has had issues with things, and I cleared her karma, and it was gone. It was like instantly. She was, I don't have that anymore. So I've done that with a lot of different people, including myself. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, very much. Thank you. Very much so.
Go on and on, but there is a truth to that, because we're all connected energetically with a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. That was something I had a realization about recently. I know since we've been doing, I do a meditation group with Rich. I call it psychic class. It's where we're all coming to really learn how to tune in and open up our channels and all that good stuff. And since I've been doing the group, I've noticed that I'm accelerating, everything, that all of the growth and learning and opening up of my intuition and stuff has accelerated tremendously. Between doing that and breath work, I can feel past life stuff coming out and being cleared. I just feel it every time. I feel oh, there's a layer that's gone, that I don't need anymore. But after, we had a recent session that was really powerful. And then the next day I went to breath work, and then I had this realization about forgiveness and about how, so much of my resentment so much of what was blocking me financially was my resentment of the systems that exist, but not just those systems that exist, but my own participation in them. And the fact that I've been them in a life and they've been me in a life, and that we're all connected. Like, I just realized that the work that I needed to do was in my own soul, my own resistance to the powers that be as they are, and that was really the only access that I have to make a change, is by clearing my own karma from that and clearing my own participations that have led up to the systems to begin with. And I don't know what that participation has been, but I know that it has been, because it was spoken to me very clearly, like, really at the core of this, you need to forgive yourself. You need to forgive your soul.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So I just, that's what that made me think of, is just,
That's one of the most interesting parts of this, is when you start to learn how to get into your own chakra system and listen to yourself. I always ask people, do you love yourself? And if they hesitate, then I know that we got some work to do, because they've been told, if they come out of religion or an extreme family situation, they're not worthy of being loved, right?
Right.
So that's in your solar plex chakra. So now you've got to go in here and work on that issue and clear that, see? Because how are you going to work on other people and heal them if you don't feel you're worthy?
Right. Yeah, I recently started, a few months ago, just every day looking myself in the eye and just saying, I love you in every tone, in every way, until I feel the love for myself. And I can't tell you how life-changing that's been. Like, immediately my actions that I was taking without having to motivate myself, just like my divine actions just became so aligned. And every day I do that, I just tell myself, I love you. And I feel like it's really important work to realize, like, let the God in us tell us how much we're loved, because we have been programmed by so many, voices in the world that we're not worthy of it.
Well, look at how our whole society is based on competition.
Yeah.
If you lose, you're a loser. You're
Right.
not anything. You got to be a winner, right? So only 50% of the people can win. The other 50 are losers.
Right.
So think about our society and how people have been shaped. And it's so ridiculous, but it's so powerful. So that's part of that whole little chapter I wrote about getting your power back.
Yeah.
We don't have to answer to other people. We don't have to answer to God himself, or if you even believe there is a God, okay? We are part of the creation. So if we start to love ourselves, then we can start loving other people and helping other people. That's called unconditional love. That's what all of the teachings of Jesus was trying to get across, but it didn't work out too well for him, because it all became political. But it was like, the unconditional love thing is what? I accept you for who you are. You accept me for who I am. Okay. We allow each other to coexist, but we don't step on each other's toes. Okay. We have that mutual respect. Why? Because of the law of cause and effect. Whatever you do to me is going to come back to you. And that's what our society doesn't understand. Everybody's pissed off at everybody else over something, and they want to get even. So it's a pendulum. It goes back and forth and back. I'm going to get even with you. If people come to a realization that, why don't we just let if that person wants to be Jewish or whatever religion, okay, let them go their course until they come to a realization for themselves if they want to continue to do that or not, okay? It's their choice not to enforce it upon other people.
Right.
It's kind of like our psychic work. We're introducing ideas and concepts about how we can change our lives through opening up our pineal gland and feeling and seeing and hearing aspects of energy that most people have no idea about, okay? But you have to be ready to accept that idea. You just go out there in public and tell somebody, you need to learn how to be a psychic. You need to get rid of all your religious or military beliefs or whatever, and you just need to learn how to become one with the spirit, okay? They're going to think you're nuts. And so I guess the point I'm trying to make is unconditional love is helping people become who they're supposed to be. Maybe sometimes people have to go through a whole lifetime of experiencing something. Maybe it's not true, but they need to experience it. So in their next lifetime, they don't have to do that.
Right. And by trying to get them to take a different path, you're really standing in the way of the path that they're meant to be taking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how many people do that?
That talks about Jesus being able to see people in their wholeness. And that's why he affected people in the way that he did, is because he didn't see all the broken things about a person. He saw their soul, he saw their wholeness. And by witnessing that in them, it amplifies it, right? Like anything that we witness in spirit, it becomes materialized or amplified. So what you were saying earlier about unconditional love and accepting people as they are, I mean, that's really is being able to see the spirit in them. It's like namaste, it's like the divine in me is witnessing the divine in you. And it's not a gift that you give, it's just letting your soul see another soul and understanding like your wholeness and your connection.
Well, I'll give you an example. In my book, Afterlife, my first chapter, it's called Does God Exist? And I had a good friend, and he went back in Boise, and he was a private investigator. I was an insurance broker. He was an atheist. I was an evangelist. He was married. I was married. We both had kids. We both did martial arts together. That was our common thread, so to speak. And we were in what we call leads groups. We were part of the Chamber of Commerce, and that's how we got our business. We were networking, okay? So Ken comes to me and says, I want to be your friend. And I go, you want to be my friend? Well, I don't even believe anything that you believe. He says, I don't care. Let's become friends. I'd never had anybody even approach me like that my whole life. So we said, we're going to meet once a week and have coffee. So we'd go to the mall and sit there and have coffee. We would start talking about issues. And he was a Democrat and I was a Republican, and blah, 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 blah. And after we did this a couple years, we became very good friends because he could say anything to me and I could say anything to him, but we didn't insult each other. We just listened, right? Mm-hmm. We just understood how that person thinks, how they believe. How can you believe this? This is why I believe this. And it was like I had never had an experience with anybody in my life, but it helped me so much because I was learning how to do psychic work, okay? And he thought I was just full of crap. He thought I was nuts. Says there's no God, there's nothing after death. So he comes to me after he dies, and that's why I wrote my first book. I told him, he says, where am I? And I said, you're in the afterlife, my friend. He says, okay, I guess you weren't lying to me after all. But it was one of these crazy things that was like, our society hasn't got to that point yet, okay? We haven't got to the point where even Democrats and Republicans can sit down and hash things out together without burning something down or killing somebody or, storming off in a rage. So our society is so immature and primitive throughout the world, but energy work is kind of like the beginning of souls are waking up They're saying there's got to be more to this life than arguing about things, right? So we come into that point, but how do we find that? It's like it always starts with you and me, ourselves. And what you're doing, you're talking about going through past lives, you're uncovering all the background that's created your biases over all these issues that people are still arguing about. You're coming to a point where you're saying, okay, I'm willing to listen to you even if I disagree. Okay? Just don't shoot me or kill me because I disagree with you. But I'm at a point on a spiritual level that I can handle what you have to say, okay? Because my ego is not that fragile. So then you get into this whole thing about ego, right? I mean, there's all kinds of teachings about how to release your ego because everybody runs around with this idea that they have to be right. You know, we're all programmed. So all of these things that we're talking about is due to programming. And energy work basically takes you back to a place where if you want to, you can start over again and look at all your biases and find out why do I hate black people? Why do I hate white people? You know, why do I hate Jewish people? Why do I hate Muslims? Blah, 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 blah. It just goes on and on and on. Why? So you go back and find out where that all came from, and then you can learn to release that. And you can establish yourself as who you want to be. We have free will. We can believe whatever we want. So if you want to hang on to your old beliefs, you can do it. I mean, nobody's going to make you do it. But the people that we run into that want to learn energy work are souls that have got to a point, I think, where they're just fed up with the chaos within themselves, right? They want to know, who am I? Everybody's telling me who I should be, but I don't even know who I am. I'm a product of a mold. I'm either a Republican or a Democrat or I'm this or that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So think about how confused our societies, not just in the United States, in the whole world is. Because when I went to India, there's a whole bunch of prejudices against other races in every country. The United States isn't any different than anywhere else. Even on this island of Maui, we've got a conglomeration of a bunch of races. Most of them get along okay with each other, okay? But there's still conflicts. So it's kind of like, I know I'm trying not to get off the subject here. So we're going to go back into why are we doing energy work, right? We're trying to get focused on who we are and let go of all the baggage to a point where we can actually be of benefit to mankind.
Wow, what a journey we just took alongside Rich Rostin. But this is just the first chapter in Rich's incredible story. In the next episode, we'll dive deeper into his exploration of subtle energy practices like chakra balancing and past life clearing. You'll hear how he transformed into a sought-after energy healer, guiding others through the unseen forces shaping their lives. And if you're curious about how Rich harnesses his abilities to help others heal, practical tools you can use to tap into your own energy for growth, and the unseen currents that influence your life and how to navigate them, then don't miss part 2 of this insightful conversation. Subscribe and share it with your friends and get ready to explore the fascinating world of subtle energy with Rich Rostin. Remember, you can listen to these episodes all at once or break it up depending on your preference. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to show your support is to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, share your thoughts by leaving a 5-star review. It really helps more people to find this space. Want to go deeper? Head over to my website at leavingthechurchtofindgod.com. There, you can make a donation and make sure that we continue to have these conversations. No matter where you are on your spiritual journey, if you or someone you know would like to join the podcast and tell your story, please reach out to me on Instagram at authenticallymelly. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep finding your own unique connection to something greater. Until next time, stay authentic, stay open, and aloha.